working out the sun. Well, it's a good evening from the studios of Radio FM88 Australia. And today it's our Australian show, and I would like to warm welcome to our guest who's across the border in New South Wales, along with none other than our co-host, Zoe, who's also down there. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Zoe, who's in a relaxed, comfortable position on the couch. There you go.
I've tried the floor, I've tried the chair, now I'm trying the couch tonight. And it's because I know the guest that we have, Kaz, who is Kahlimna. I know her as Kaz. And she's going to share with us tonight her journey around awakening to seeking the truth, which has just got to be such a noble cause to seek the truth in life. So I'm excited to hear about how Kaz got to where she is. And the topics are going to be around Egyptian portals, frequency as a medicine, health, wealth and consciousness. And if we have any time, if we can still keep her on air with us a little bit longer, she's going to share with us about the whale dreaming. So we're both in the northern rivers of New South Wales, and I've known Kaz for a few years and done a few sailing trips with her, but I also know how talented she is, especially with the frequency medicine. Just had a recent session with her, and just absolutely beautiful. So, how did you get into all of this? Please share with us. We're loving to hear what you got to say.
Okay, thank you for that lovely introduction, Zoe. And yes, we have known each other for a fair while and had lots of interactions. And it's kind of interesting because I haven't really put myself out into the world on a personal level like this, explaining my history, I guess. So, I'm 65 now, and I guess I've been into spirituality my whole life. Like, I have really vivid memories from childhood where most of my time was spent climbing up the apple tree and sitting up there talking to my angels, just talking all the beings of light that I could see and sense all around me. I was really a little recluse, and my apple tree was my most favorite place in the whole wide world. And I didn't know that it was any different than what anybody else was seeing in their world. So that sort of just was my very beginning. And I guess when I was 5 years old, my family took us up into the country to a place called Horsham. And we're out at a playground, and I actually fell off. It was like there was a moving platform, and, a few of the kids were all on it playing. And I fell off face first into sort of some sand and dirt underneath. And it came back and sort of hit me right in the back of the skull and at the top of my neck. And I certainly saw stars then. And that night, when I was in my bed, my brother was in the next single bed in the same room. And I remember actually hearing my brother calling out, "Mom, Dad, something's wrong with Karen," which was the name I went by back then. And my parents came running into the room to see what was happening. And all of a sudden I realized that I was actually floating up on the ceiling, looking down, and could see my body in the bed. And then I'd be back in my body and going, I could feel myself going, oh, why won't my body do what I want it to do? Why can't I speak? How come you can't hear me? And I'm talking to my parents that are, touching me and going, Karen, Karen, and all this. And then I was just back floating up on the ceiling again and go, wow, this is fun. And I realized that I had angels around me. And ever since that time, I'd sort of seen angels. And it sort of seemed like just a normal part or an extension of what I had had already been doing when I was up in the apple tree talking to fairies and angels and goodness knows what. I'm sure people get locked away for these things if they talk about it. I very much learnt it was my own private little world. And to be honest, at times I was quite scared of them. Like I would see things and hear voices, and like I remember sleeping with a blanket over my head and one time feeling like a tap on my shoulder and then thinking it was my dad probably coming in to check on me, pulled the blanket down and there was this huge being of light smiling at me. And I just automatically went, oh, and pulled my blanket back up again. So it wasn't always a comfortable feeling. And I think as I got a little bit older, it was just normal. And so it's always been the most important thing to me is not just to, I guess, take note or maybe even trust exactly what's going on outside of me, because I had such a vivid inner world.
No. Well,
Yeah,
did you tell your parents? Did you tell your parents about it? You didn't?
Not for years and years and years. And actually, with my mum, when she passed, probably nearly 3 years ago now, I stayed with her for 8 days, talking to her about the angels and everything leading up to her passing, and told her not to be scared, because most people are scared of dying. It's the one thing I've never ever been scared of. This world is a scary place, rather than the other worlds. But when she passed, I actually saw a choir of angels come for her, and I saw them walk off with her and sort of float off, actually, and take her somewhere that I was actually watching. And I saw her reunite with my father, who'd passed years earlier, and the angels with her and lots of friends that had already passed that were in her age group. And her just turn around and wave to me really happily, like, I made it, I'm here. So it's like, I guess I'm really lucky. I get to see this other world with us, and I hear them and see them, and a lot of other people don't. So I consider myself really blessed. So
yeah.
just
So you didn't tell
normal.
Did you tell anyone? Like, I mean, did you carry this through your whole life up until you've come to a land where a lot of people can relate to you and go, wow, how fabulous. And that in your life when you were younger, I mean, not everybody, like what you say, not a lot of people do relate to this, or they would have locked you up and thought you were crazy. Was there anyone that you could confide in?
There were certain special friends in that, and I started like in my 20s. I was always interested in healing and the other dimensions, the other worlds and different frequencies. And I started, I can't even remember where I got my first deck of reading cards. And I started doing readings for people, and they were, surprisingly accurate. And,
Wow.
so I started doing readings for friends and just keeping it very much on that personal friendship level. And I guess it expanded from there. But then when I had the opportunity to move, further up the coast from Melbourne, where I grew up, it just all opened up, because up here, especially around Byron Bay and Mullumbimby and everything, it's sort of second nature. And it was like this beautiful experience of being able to get out and just be myself and actually be honest. And so I've been at like all the markets for years doing readings. I stopped doing that a little while ago. I trained in hypnotherapy back when I was in Melbourne. So I used to have a hypnotherapy clinic and counseling. And, I guess in those times, people knew that I was intuitive. I've always used it in a work sense. And like I was a sales rep for vitamins and minerals, and, you get to meet people and for some reason, people used to all tell me their secrets, and I guess I just have that resonance about me where most people seem to trust me. And I think it's because I really trust my angels. And more, I guess from my 20s, I did start coming out and telling people about angels and reassuring them. And like when I think back, actually, I remember a situation with my little cousin who was only about 4 at the time, and I was probably 12, and he was scared of the dark. And we're sitting out under the stars, and I told him about the stars and the star beings and the angels. And this little kid then just ran off happily into the dark playing. So I've always sort of, I guess, taken on that role with people where I've reassured them about the other realms that I can see and feel and know so well. And they don't. But to be honest, people are opening up a lot more than they ever did now. It really is the Great Awakening. And one of the things like that I work with, I sort of let go of the hypnosis, and I was a yoga teacher in Melbourne as well. Whereas up here in the Northern Rivers, it's kind of dime a dozen. And I was ready for something very new. And my beings of light actually taught me a process with the liquid crystals, which I'm an advanced practitioner of. And I would just hear them speaking to me. So initially I had someone on the massage table because I'd been a masseur for a lot of years. And all of a sudden this voice came in and said, okay, put 3 drops. I had some liquid crystals with me made up. They said, put 3 drops on such and such a place on the body. And I just went, oh, okay, because I kind of always do what I'm told. And all of a sudden I could feel the energy moving on their body. And then they told me why and what those particular liquid crystals were doing. And so then I would relate that to my client. And so it ended up being a massage with frequency and an energy movement with the liquid crystals and an explanation, a reading of it. And then over the years, that kind of just built up into a repertoire of beings coming in to visit and speak and giving me statements to sometimes ask my clients to repeat. And it just opened up a whole different realm of healing. I don't know anybody else who's done that work, but I guess if they taught me that directly, they've probably taught other people as well. I just don't know who they are. So, and I was doing that for quite a while. And to be honest, it was like living in that zone while I was doing the healing work. And I was in my element. My memories would come back and I'd see scenes in Atlantis and Lemuria and remember past lives. So it's like I was getting the frequency at the same time. And I was told by my beings that as I rise my frequency up by doing that work, I was then the one that was able to lift my clientele up to a new level of frequency at the same time. And that's just what happened. People would have shifts, and sometimes it wasn't me sort of directly doing it, but it was me listening to the instructions I was being given by my angels and beings of light, and almost setting up, I guess, the right atmosphere for people to actually drop their fears and feel something really deeply inside that said, you know, you're more than this. So I guess I've always been what I would possibly call a seeker. And I've always been looking for what's more. Why am I hearing this? You know, why is something happening to me? And I kind of naturally have a really positive nature. So I know that everything happens to me for a reason. It's for my growth and for my evolution, even the really hard stuff. And I guess that's where the way I work with people is that it's reassuring them that they're always still connected to something else, something bigger than them. And I guess as I like I've been doing massage and working with my hands in that format for, 35 years. And they started getting a bit sore. So I've sort of said to my angels and guides that, what do you want me to do? This is getting too hard now. So I've sort of, to a large extent, dropped doing that particular work because, which is sort of a shame because I really love it, but I got to love myself more. And they actually brought me into a new training that I've done, which is called Compassion Key. And I did my certificate in that earlier this year. It's such a simplistic, beautiful process of allowing people to connect with their higher self, which seems really natural for me at least, and for them by the time we do some work around it. And it really is their higher self giving statements that actually wipe out their old programming. And they find that they're just raising their frequency. They're looking at life in a different way. And it really is such an amazing frequency to work with. And I'm actually doing my master's in that at the moment, which only started a few weeks ago. So fully engrossed in that once again. So it's like, don't ever say if you get to 65, it's over, because I guess that's what happened to me. I moved house about 18 months ago away from where I had my healing room in the community I was living on. And I kind of felt like I was retired and not doing my work, my service, my purpose that I know I'm meant to be doing. So I sort of put in a complaint to the universe and said, what do you want me to do? I used to be really psychic and really in tune and doing all this fantastic work and feeling right in my zone. And I feel like I'm relaxing too much. Surely there's work to be happening, because this world is, as most of us would know, is pretty crazy at the moment. Things are pretty intense. And I did a session with my master trainer around this and cleared all the programming around it and what I was thinking and feeling and believing. And within, I think it was a day and a half, I had an email arrive in my inbox from a couple that I'd done some healing work with. I'd had a personal session with them, or with one of them. He was called Sampurna at the time, now called Ra. And he said all this stuff to me that by working with me, it was opening up all these portals for him out into the starry blueprints and feel anything. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, glad it's helping you. And I sort of knew that from my side, I can quite often get the answers for other people just by being in the same room or on the same Zoom call or whatever with them. It was happening for him, but I didn't feel all that much. Anyway, I got an email talking about Egypt. And I started reading through this email and all the pictures of pyramids and temples. And my heart just started absolutely going berserk. And I started crying. And I go, oh, wow, what's going on here? And I thought, yeah, okay, something's happening. And I thought, okay, maybe I'm going to Egypt. I don't know. And I thought, I'm not going to jump the gun. I'll open it up again in a week's time and listen again. And a week later, the heart went again, started bawling my eyes out again. And I just, without really knowing any of the details of cost or anything, I just went, I'm going to Egypt. And it's like, oh my God, so excited. And it was sort of almost last minute, or for me, there was no real planning in it. And 3 weeks later, I landed in Cairo with 23 other, what I would call psychic intuitives as well. And we started having private sessions in the the key pyramids on the Giza Plateau, and it's like this is actually the very first time I've really even talked about this, because I switched into intuitive psychic mode and I couldn't tolerate anything that was analytical. And we had these two beautiful guides that had been born on the Giza Plateau, and had been generations of their family of guided people. And every so often they would try to give us, the who's who in the Egyptian zoo. And I'm sure I just got a glazed look on my face and went, oh, and walk off. But all of us were like purely in our intuition, and we were just resonating with each other, and we just were guided. We knew what direction we had to go to in any given temple. We knew who we had to be with and work with out of our group. And it was really obscure. Times I just went and stood by a doorway and looked into where they had it locked out, and I could feel beings on the other side of the doorway connecting and just giving us directions where next to go. And everyone was having these experiences. It wasn't just me. It was the most fantastic group of people, males and females. And so I feel like I was almost in a daze. And I'm sure some people think I'm still in Egypt. I've been back a couple of months at least now. But I've never got back to clearing my photos up or sending a second email saying I'm home, because I've never actually had the words. It's all been just pure feeling. And
Yes.
like there were so many experiences.
Mm. That is right. I mean, that really makes sense, not having the words, because you're in a completely different experience. And I saw you when you came back, you were absolutely glowing, but I really can feel that you're just piecing it all together, and
I am.
and how to transfer that. And it must have been great for you to be with all those people, because it sounds like in some way your journey's been lonely in a way on the earthly plane of people to speak to about this, but you've had all these angels, and it's not that you were felt lonely or alone, because you had all those angels and everything around you, but you didn't have anyone really to speak to on that level with. And so being in Egypt would have been fabulous. And
yeah.
Was that with
It was
Jean?
just like, go on,
What?
sorry.
Did you go with Jean Sheehan?
No, Sampurna and Sarah.
All
So
right.
which were originally from New Zealand. And they've been doing activations and clearings, encodements all around the world, and they're over in Ireland at the moment.
Wow.
But everyone felt sort of similar in a lot of ways, and some of the others had already done a lot of the activations that were done in Central Australia and in New Zealand. It was a very eclectic group. But when we were together, it was like soul family. We knew our purpose, and it was just such an innate knowing and feeling. And I think there's so many people that are lost in this world. I know I've connected with many of them in counseling sessions and things. And it's like, you really can't explain it until you experience knowing your truth and knowing the truth of where you are. And there really is no judgment. There is no right or wrong. It's the more you can be in your feelings, the more you can open all of this up. And I've got to say, I came home from Egypt totally different. And everyone said the same thing, that, wow, something's changed. You really look different. And they couldn't necessarily say what it is, because frequency, you can feel it, but you can't touch it. For so many people, it doesn't doesn't feel like it's based in reality. And yet what touches you deep inside, especially in your heart, is actually more real. That side of me, that spiritual side, is more real than this physical world. And yeah, in truth, what you said, Zoe, it's taken quite a while for me to actually really resonate with more than just a few really close friends, which I've always had close friends. But being in Egypt has changed all of that. So it's like I'm now I feel like I've stepped into my purpose. And I believe I've always been on purpose most of the time. I'm so nowhere near perfect. But I guess that brings it on to like some of the frequency. Like I can imagine people going, well, how do you raise your frequency? How do you actually do that? And, there's actually lots of different ways to raise your frequency. And, we might get to talk a little bit more with whale frequency. Man, do they raise your frequency? Just being out hanging with the whales around Harvey Bay or, wherever you might happen to be. It's like there's nothing like that. It's pure heart opening and lifting of your frequency and your resonance. Yoga, like what you do, Zoe, and what I used to teach in yoga, is paramount to breathing, bringing all this frequency actually into your reality. And you kind of find that you open up more and more to what's out there and what's available. And then you find, when you do open up, like maybe with a conversation with someone, you find that they're actually talking the same language, and it's almost like a sigh in people, when they realize that, oh, you don't think I'm nuts? And it's like, that's more and more commonplace. So, but I guess one of the things that my new focus is actually on frequency technology, or I shouldn't say new focus, because I've always looked at like Nicholas Tesla and his different apparatuses that he worked with, that, the powers that be sort of closed down. I believe all of that information came from a much higher, different dimensional place for Nicholas Tesla to bring that through. And I've been with a couple of different practitioners that have been really out there wildly in their field with frequency technologies, using it in different ways. And right now, like, I'm super excited because there's actually, for the first time on a personal level in a portable unit, there's something with a company called Ollie Life, but it's like you put your feet on this piece of technology. So you're just sitting there relaxing with your feet on it for 20 minutes, and it actually resonates with you. It picks up on your frequency wherever you are at the moment. And, it's actually a healing technology, and that it actually gives you what you need on a personal level. You don't have to tell it anything. It just kind of does what I do with people as well, to some extent, is read someone else's frequency and then match and lift that frequency. And I guess one of the things that got me into that was that their little catch cry in their marketing at one point, because it's only very new to Australia, this particular technology has only been here for about 3 months. And their catch cry was health first, wealth, and consciousness. And to me, that's how it's got to be. Like, there is no time for anything unless it's heart-based, unless it's being of service. That's my level of integrity. That's my ethos. And I just went, yes, I just got the biggest yes when I put my feet on this machine, and the rest is just unfolding as it's meant to be. But there's some really, I don't know, fantastic health benefits that are starting to show themselves, that people are sharing their testimonies. And I know there's one that just goes for, I think it's about 5.6 minutes, something like that, 6.5 minutes, that Jeff, if you feel you want to put that up, could be really interesting for people to see, especially if you've been compromised by some of the things that went down through the COVID era. So, yeah, maybe we can play that.
I want to hear your story here. It's all yours. Tell them how you became such a beautiful lady from doing after, but also whatever else it did. It's all yours, Stacey.
All right. Well, I made some notes so I can hopefully summarize it and not talk your head off. But start of my issues was in 2021, April of 2021. I got 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. Within an hour and a half of my second dose, I became violently ill. When I say violently ill, I became tachycardic. I ended up with this really bad brain fog. I was derealizing. I felt like I was out of my body. I started spitting up blood. By 3 weeks in, I could barely hold my head up because I was so dizzy. My blood pressure was through the roof. I had a constant fever. And then at 90 days, then I deteriorated to the point where I was urinating on myself because I had lost muscle control. I had a bunch of neurological damage. That's why my brain felt so strange within that first hour and a half. So I was urinating on myself, walking with a cane come 90 days. At 120 days, I had a stroke. Which obviously gave me a bunch of right side weakness so that I was even more dependent upon my cane. I developed what are called essential tremors. So my hands would shake, my legs would quiver underneath me. I couldn't stand up for more than a couple minutes because I would just pant and couldn't get my breath. That was 120 days in. Fast forward to 12 months in, those symptoms all remained. Nothing improved. I was on multiple medications. I was seeing multiple specialists, including the Cleveland Clinic, which is supposed to be one of the best in the country, to no avail. I was just declining. So at 12 months, I developed a condition called gastroparesis. And if you're not familiar with what that is, it is when your digestive system basically stops working. So when I would try to eat, I would vomit the food up a few days later, completely undigested. I had multiple impacted bowels. I mean, it was just, my body was just deteriorating before my eyes. And this is all while under the care of the best of the best doctors. At 15 months in, that's that picture that you saw. I was covered in lumps and tumors. I had them all under my neck. I had them under my armpits, under my breasts, in my inner thighs. And I was just completely covered in lumps. So I had went to a hematologist for a bone marrow biopsy, and my results weren't good. But because I was overweight, when I went to that appointment, the doctor looked at me and said, I'll take these results seriously when you take your weight loss seriously. So that was the last doctor that I saw, and I was preparing to end my life at that point because I couldn't get help and I couldn't get relief. So a couple months after that appointment, I was planning on ending my life. A couple months after that, I was going to go through the holidays with my kids and then take my life after that. I saw an injured friend of mine who was also damaged from the shots, and he was using frequency. And he went from not being able to walk and having all these symptoms to a week later, he was jogging with his dog. And I'm like, okay, what is that? So I immediately ordered a machine because I knew that it was either this was going to work or I was going to kill myself. That's just the blunt truth. So my machine showed up the first day that I used it for 15 minutes. I went to bed. I anticipated some of the detox because I was so sick. So the next day I just kind of slept and in between bathroom breaks, but I was going to the bathroom a lot. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So when I did my session that night, I just went straight to bed. I woke up the following day. So we're now like 36 hours, 48 hours maybe since I got my machine. And I woke up the next day and I popped out of bed and I went to the bathroom and I came back to my bed. And then I was like, wait a second, because I hadn't been able to do that in 561 days. I counted every single day because the days were horrible. I was just bedridden, totally sick. And so I sat on the edge of the bed and I kind of like started moving my head around. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not dizzy. I started feeling my pulse. Well, my heart rate is not fast. And so I started taking all my vitals because that's what I did. I weighed myself and I had lost 14 pounds. That's why I was going to the bathroom so much, is because it was getting all that inflammation off of me. And then, like 80% of the symptoms, because I had them all written down, because I documented everything because I wanted people to know what happened to me. And 80% of those symptoms on that list were gone. I wasn't dizzy. My heart rate wasn't fast. I didn't feel short of breath. I felt bright. I felt like I was back in my brain, back in my body. My discolored skin was coming back to life, looking peaked and like it should. There's just so many things. And then just to give you an idea of how sick I was, I'll give you some of my diagnoses that I had by day 561. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, polyneuropathy, fibromyalgia, sleep apnea, small fiber neuropathy. I had a specialized blood test done with one of those, pro people I was working with in the country. I was a 1/10 of a point away from having full-blown AIDS on paper because my CD8, CD4 count was all bad. I had tachycardia, I had AFib, gastroparesis, and they also diagnosed me with functional neurological disorder. So after using frequency for the first 2 weeks, all those symptoms went away except for one, which was AFib, and that resolved itself within 12 months. But all of those symptoms that I had, all those diagnoses that I had, all the pain, all of that was gone by 2 weeks in. I didn't have any of those symptoms. By the month 6, my cycle returned back to normal, because that's another thing. I lost my cycle during that when my body was shutting down. My cycle came back at month 6. By month 12, I had no AFib, and the rest is history, as they say. But I do want to make it clear that during my illness, I was seeing 26 doctors, specialists all over the state. I was on multiple medications, dozens of medications, different combinations, all of that. I was also taking the best of the best supplements that you can get. I was also trying fasting, coffee enemas, liver cleanses, you name it, and my body would not budge. It was like frequency is exactly what my body was missing. My blood was so thick when I was sick that it would come out in the tube black. And when they would clunk it, shake it like this to test it, it would clunk in the tube. That's how thick my blood was. So yeah, I had beautiful bright blood because I checked my sugars and I'd see it come out and I'm like, oh, my blood looks normal. I mean, everything returned back to normal within 12 months. And I couldn't believe it because I was on the road to death.
Wow. You know why? Wow. I say wow, because when I start my testimonial, I think I had a big testimonial. It's not that bad. All right. And you just blew me out of the park there, Stacey.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. It's such an amazing testimonial. Obviously, that was in America. And especially with what's been going on in our world.
Yeah, how did you hear about it? How did you personally hear about it? If that product comes from America, how did it come into your life?
It actually comes from Asia. So it's been in Asia for 3 years. Singapore, I think, is the head office. And it's only just been 3 months ago released in Australia. And it's pretty much available all around the world now, but it's a brand new Western market that it's been opened up into. And a friend sent me, forwarded a Facebook post from a lovely young lady that's in our area. And as I was listening to her testimonial that she'd put out, I thought I could be listening to myself, because as we were talking about sailing earlier, back at the very beginning of COVID, I never got jabbed or anything. And I was crewing on a yacht that was leaving from Sydney up to Hamilton Island. And there's 3 freshly jabbed guys on the boat. And, I copped a lot of flack from all of them because, they knew my stance on I can heal my own body and look after my own body and all the rest of it. And when I got off that boat, I just never felt the same. I've just had all these niggling little issues that have come up with digestion, with reproductive area, with not sleeping, with headaches, with you name it, all these niggling little things. And I can link it back to that actual boat trip. And, maybe there's a little bit of age stuff coming in, I'm getting older now, but I don't want to believe that. And I'm still really, really active, and I refuse to give in to anyone's belief or perception around age. So I heard her testimony, and she was actually offering to come and actually try the machine for free. And I went and had a go. And I knew before I even got there, I just thought, I can feel it. It's like I was being called there. And it's like I said, as soon as I put my feet on it, it's just like, oh yeah, okay, I'm getting this. And I just know this is going to be a big part of my life, as well as the people that were sort of there. On that particular day, it was mainly female healers that were very intuitive and just loving. I could feel they were in their hearts, how we're all meant to be. And I thought, okay, be smart. It's like my email about the pyramids. That I left for a week. This one I thought, I'm going to sleep on this one. And I rang up the next morning and said, yep, I want to order one. I'm in. And I haven't actually got my own one yet. It's just passed through customs today, I found out. So very shortly, I've got mine arriving. And that afternoon, after being on it for 20 minutes, I was just so happy. And I mean, you can account for this one, Zoe. I'm pretty happy and positive and all the rest of it. And certainly not a sad sop or anything else. But I was so buoyant and so happy that I never realized I could be that happy, because I already thought I was really happy. And it hasn't, that was 3.5 weeks ago. It hasn't diminished at all. It's got stronger and stronger. And I've been tuning in with this. We also had a conference on the Gold Coast, not last weekend, the weekend before. So I was in with 9 different machines all operating at the same time, and some other bits of technology for 5 hours. By the end of it, we were all vibrating. It's like, it was just so much frequency to hold. But the same thing, I kind of felt the same energy as I had felt in Egypt with the pyramids and with the temples, and the level of my beingness had risen. And that's where the word consciousness that comes in is like super important. This piece of technology is very intuitive. It feels into your frequency and your resonance, and then gives you what you need to heal. So I've no doubt with Stacey, there was a lot of physical stuff that needed to be healed. I've got certain things that are starting to improve, one of them being sleep, thank goodness. And unless it's a full moon, then I've got not a lot of hope at the moment. But they've been pretty intense of late. But I can feel things moving and changing in my body. I'm lucky. I can, like when I had my feet on it, I could actually feel where the frequency was going, how it was moving, what it was affecting. And it was kind of weird because I felt it go into my reproductive area and went, oh, okay, what's this? And, but I could feel it. It was tangible. And I know my truth is linked in with that's just one of the machines. And I mean, I love massaging. I love working with people. When I was at the conference, like with this P90 Plus machine, you actually get 2 little add-ons with it that plug into the base unit. And one is it's like a claw. It's called a revitalized massager. And I thought, I'm going to give it a go. And I was, demonstrating it and having a go on this lovely young woman that had a lot of tension in her shoulders, her neck, and her upper back. So I was just using these really gentle strokes. And this one has the frequency, the PEMF frequency, but it's got red light therapy in it and EMF, which is electromagnetic muscular release frequencies. And as I was moving it just gently down her neck from under her skull and down onto her shoulder, her muscles were absolutely agitating and then releasing. And I sort of said, you know, are you okay? Is there any pain? She goes, no pain. It feels good. I go, okay. So I kept going on one side, and each time it got less and less and less. Me as a masseur is looking at this and going, wow, this is something. And then I did the other side, which it started like vibrating higher up on the neck with her. Just did it again until there was nothing left. The whole time, it literally took, so you can see there in the picture what it looks like. It took 4 minutes. It was 2 minutes on each side. If I was just doing massage, I'd be out of business. But it worked. And I worked on people's neck and shoulders and stuff where you do at least an hour and a half, and you may or may not release it. And I usually send them home to have some magnesium and, you know, some extra prep before I, you know, do another session on them. No way. This just cleared it. To me, it was like a miracle. And animals gravitate towards it. So you're not going to do anything rough with an animal. And we've got lots of people in our group that are actually using this Revitalize massager on their animals just very, very gently. You don't need to use any effort. And these animals are just laying back and taking it. And when their owners are in the room with their feet on it, these cats are coming up on laps that don't normally even, you know, come near people unless it's food time. And the dogs are coming into the room. I feel like there's always truth with animals. They will tell you if they don't like something, and they will steer clear or hide or something. Most of these animals are doing the exact opposite. They're gravitating towards it. So like how I could feel the energy and the frequency rising in the room as we were working with people, they can feel that frequency. So it's obviously going to be better when you're actually there with your foot on the unit, or one of the other units is, you know, a few different ones. But even just to be working around with it and sitting there, and, you know, most people just close their eyes and meditate. And it's, I have never seen that quick a response for anything really that I've used. But one of the things that happened for me, like I said that I've been, you know, using different frequencies and Tesla frequencies for quite a while. I usually lose a whole day a month. I shouldn't say lose because it's a really good day, traveling from the Northern Rivers up to Pimpana on the other side of the Gold Coast, through the Gold Coast traffic with my best buddy. And we spend 2 hours getting there, have a 3-hour session with all these amazing pieces of technology, and then have some lunch and on the way home and another 2 hours. So it's a whole day, and it's a big commitment, and I just can't afford any more days to go more often. So that's just once a month. And I went to see Stu, who's the guy there, and he starts by using a pendulum as you're lying on the massage table, checking the direction of your chakras and each of your organs to see if the energy frequency is turning in the right direction, and then he corrects it. And last Wednesday when we went there, I'm always on the table first, and I'm lying down. He's going, wow, okay, and making all these comments, gets to my liver and goes, wow, your liver is rocking. Whatever you're doing, you have to keep going with this. This is amazing. And we'd been talking about liver cleansing on, you know, the month previous. And I had done 2 liver cleanses. Second one, I'm not so sure it worked because I cheated a little bit, but and gallbladder cleanse. And I said, I know it's not that, you know, I'm sure that helps a little, but I said about the frequency machine. And he said he'd had someone bring the machine for him to try the week before, and he'd been through a huge healing journey around totally smashed up legs, implants, and getting cancer and healing himself of cancer after being in a wheelchair for 2 years. And he spent 20 minutes on it, And he said he had his first night in years where he had no pain in his legs. And he said, yeah, okay, you need to stick with this. You need to be doing this. So for Stu to tell me that with everything he was doing and checking with me, that it was working, then I take that as he's so knowledgeable. And I just take that as a full go ahead. So, yeah. So sort of one, yes, more than anything else.
Sounds exciting. When is it arriving?
My person literally went through customs at 3:10 today, so it could be any day now. But I've actually got two of the people that I work with are teaming up this coming Thursday, the 11th, in Wilson's Creek at the Mullumbimby end of it, at a beautiful temple where people can come and actually try it for free. It takes 20 minutes. So I'm actually taking appointments for that at the moment. So, yep, Zoe, only up the road.
When is
so
it?
You know exactly where I'm at.
Oh, let me look in my diary. What time on Thursday?
I'll talk to you about this a little bit later. So,
okay. Well, I'd love to come.
I thought you might.
Yeah. Oh, that's
it
cool.
Is
That
so you can
like
actually get your on it and just experience it and see what you feel. Some people don't necessarily feel it straight away. Toshido, my partner, he had a session last week and he just, faced it up and said, look, these things work for me. I went, yeah, just try it. Just see how you go. And he did. He had his 20-minute session and, checked in later and he said, I didn't feel anything. And then I was just looking at him through the afternoon and I could see him energetically. He was glowing. And, he's still sort of, saying, oh, that's because I was, as a musician, so he was playing music that night. And I said, no, this was in the afternoon that I saw this and I took note of it. But, some people will take a little longer. Not everyone is like me, I guess, that just feels it in their heart and just knows the truth around it. But I believe we're all capable of it. So the more that we, I guess, allow ourselves to be open to what's possible, and that's where, looking at testimonies, I've got so much information. I'm happy to send it out to people. It's just going to be first in, best dressed as such for this Thursday, but there'll be a few sessions and there'll be more at further dates. But that's an invitation that anyone is welcome to contact me over, but probably do it sooner rather than later because it'll book in pretty fast.
How many people are you taking?
Well, we'll probably start from possibly from as early as 9 o'clock. We have to finish this session at the last session will probably be 3:30, and we've got to give the machines a break after 3 uses. But there will be 2 machines, and if mine comes through fast enough, there are 3. So I'm not holding my hopes, but I've got my fingers crossed for that. And but it's the key with this, going back to that ethos of health, wealth, and consciousness, is that it's got to be about health first. We've got nothing if we don't have our health. And, it's like there's no right or wrong. There's no one way for everybody. But there's so much new things that are coming in now that's available to us that wasn't previously. And we all need to open up to it. Like, I am just about shocked that my partner agreed to come, that he's actually signed up and he actually purchased a unit that's going to work with his lower back pain because he was in enough pain. I guess he had to do something. But for him to, I guess, trust what I was feeling as well, and feeling that resonance. And I believe he was seeing the change in me that other people have been seeing since Egypt. And, you know, everyone owes it to themselves to actually give something new a try. And
Yes.
even if it's just collecting information, you know, if it's not possible to come here, maybe I can organise somewhere where else someone lives. That I'm going down to Melbourne probably the first week in January, because I will have my machines by then, and we'll be running some, you know, frequency gatherings down there so people can try it. But I'll be driving down, so there'll be places along the way down there and coming back perhaps. And anyway, just people are welcome to connect with me, and I'm happy to send out some information. And yeah, it's where I'm at. And that passion covers everything, I feel.
Yeah, I think keeping really open to opportunities in life, like why wouldn't you try? I mean, I do. I like to try all. If something comes my way, I believe that it's purposely come by my way through the gods, and they've brought it into my path. And so to turn away from that, I wouldn't do. I'd embrace that. And yeah, and my mother used to say, all the money in the world, you can't buy health. So, but health can bring wealth, and that wealth, I mean, wealth is way more than physical things, material things.
Not just money. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And then from there comes the consciousness to actually become a witness and see ourselves in life rather than getting too caught up in what's going on. Yeah, so that's beautiful. I love the work that you and I did together. That where you reframe the brain or reframe ways of thinking, and it was just beautiful how you, with this work that we did, it took me back to my dog and took me back to my father, and you know they're really deep, heartfelt moments that I had there with you. And I don't normally go to those places. Life is just so busy that just go on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and you know, never take the time to actually sit and feel those deep feelings. Yeah, so I love that work you do, and you're doing a master's in that. And how long is the master's?
That's compassion.
Yeah.
This part is 6 months, and then I've still got another 6 months after that as well for running group circles and things. But it's beautiful work. And I think if people can work on opening up and clearing old programs that we all carry, all of us, and I guess probably the greatest gift for the training that I've been doing over the last year with Compassion Key has been that we work on ourselves. We clear our own stuff. And believe me, it's constantly. And the thing is that once you've actually had a session or two and understand it, it really is self-healing. So I'm holding space for someone and coming through with statements that are actually given, but it's actually, they repeat it, and it's actually as their higher self, because they're connected into that higher frequency part of themselves that we all have. You know, I was brought up Catholic, and we would call that probably the guardian angel. But it's actually us. It's not outside of us. It's our higher consciousness, our higher frequency. And it's there and it's available to everyone. So with the Compassion Key, it's actually the higher self that is saying these statements and clearing the current self, and whatever age may come forward with that. Doesn't always happen with everybody, and it's all very individual, but you can then, as anything arises, anything pushes your buttons out in your day-to-day life, you can actually make those same statements coming from your higher self to your current self that might be upset or triggered over something. So you can do that. You can do that for yourself. So you're actually learning how to empower yourself and raise your own frequency moment by moment throughout your day. And then if you add that in with, the frequencies of PEMF and terahertz in a machine that seems so aligned to helping on all of those areas of consciousness and lifting your frequency as well, to me, you're really covering off on a huge aspect of healing your mental, emotional, and your physical levels. But for me, the P90 Plus is actually, I feel like it worked with my consciousness. I feel like it just consolidated my consciousness, and that's why I just feel so buoyant and aligned. And I think I said before too that when I was actually on that machine and working with it, I actually feel the connection back to Egypt. I feel that same resonance and that same energy. And it's really hard when you've been to any amazing retreat or experience that's really moved your world. Like over there, I was working with the blueprint, the starry blueprints, and I've always known myself to be a star seed or a star being. I know I came from the stars. I believe we all do, but I've got memory of it. And someone else who saw me when I was over there, just in one of the temples, said they saw my whole head just open up and all these stars. And that's what I was working with in Hathar's temple. Walking through, I got told to walk the way of the stars. And I walked right up through the center, right up to the furthest point. And all the pyramids and the temples have got stars painted on the roof. And I never dreamt that that would be how it is. But it is. And it's very much connecting us with our starry selves, our higher frequency, our frequency that goes beyond just this earth plane and this dimension. And to me, it's almost magical, because it's just all of these things that are going on in my life now just feel like they're all coalescing together. And for the first time, I just totally believe in myself, believe in my experience, believe that I'm on the right path with my purpose and why I actually came here eons ago. I've always had past life memories, but there's a different level of self-belief with it. And by me holding that, I know I'm holding it for other people that I interact with. I'm queen of the hugs. I'm always hugging people, as you know, Zoe. And I believe when you connect with other people, when you're actually got a consolidated frequency that you've got in your body, which I believe I have now after Egypt and by using this machine, that automatically resonates with other people. Other people feel it. And I guess the really easy way for someone who maybe has never felt that is if you go to a party or some sort of a gathering, you may walk into the room and, start moving around and feel really comfortable in one position with one sort of person you're chatting to. And then you might go to walk in a different direction and you notice there's someone else there and you have no idea why, but it's sort of like, oh, no, I'm not going over there. You can feel that they're in a bad mood or in a bad place. Maybe they're upset over something or carrying something heavy within them. But most people have got that experience where they've felt it in that sense, if you want to call it that negative sense. And likewise, when someone's glowing and really embodied in their frequency or just in their happiness, you gravitate towards them. You feel drawn to be near them. It's the same thing. That's feeling frequency. That's feeling connection. And we all are capable of doing that. And I believe that's what, with working with this particular frequency technology, it's lifting us. And, we all started at a different place because we've all had, different unique lifetimes this time and previously, if you want to believe in that. but we're always spiraling upwards. That's my belief, my positive belief. And I don't believe that we, even sometimes when it's dark times, we never really go back down. I think it's always maybe we sit on a ledge for a little while, contemplate our navel or whatever, but we never go back down, even sometimes when it feels like that. And sometimes people just need a really good dose of realistic positivity. And I think I specialize in that. I think I can wear that badge. So,
yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And that segues us onto the sailing, where you're the absolute beautiful hostess of positivity and hugs and love and caring for us all on the boats. And tell us a bit about these wonderful sailing trips that you host every year.
yeah, they're actually, Toshido is the main one, my partner, who actually hosts them. I've sort of just piggybacked in on his lovely shoulders and do my feminine thing, as in I'm a welcomer. I'm always on the door at functions, welcoming people and just connecting with people. That's who I am. And so usually there's 2 whaleboat trips in generally about September, sometimes slightly bridging into October. And there's usually anything up to a dozen people on these beautiful catamarans that sail around and see all the whales and feel their frequencies. And we actually have what's called a hydrophone that we put in. Like the trip we went on this year, the whales were really quite quiet. It's like they were on a mission. They were going past us and we're going, what's going on? And ironically, I brought back some water from the Magic Lake that's on a oasis just out of Cairo. And I've been doing rituals with this magic water because we imbued it with all the encodements and activations and alignments from all the temples and pyramids that we'd been in, all the work we'd done. And of course, we did one of those when we were on the boat. And it was the second last night. And so we did this blessing on the water. And then the next day, no kidding, we were mobbed. We had one pod of about 5 or 6 or 7 whales, babies and mamas and aunties. And they were just all around us for the whole day. And it was like, oh my God, you cannot imagine how blissful that is. It just takes that frequency right up there, as well as, just being with other like-minded people that just love nature and love walking around the islands and seeing the whales and the dolphins and the turtles and the fish. And it's like, I got memories of Lemuria. I remember being a mermaid, and you might take the mermaid out of the water, but you can't take it out of this girl. So whale watching, my heaven. And that's probably, one of the first frequencies that I really felt when I came up to this area from Melbourne. The going out with whales and, having that absolute heart connection with them. I actually found a bit of whalebone once on the beach at Fraser Island, and I actually chewed it off and ate it because I really wanted to imbue some of the genealogy of the whales. So, those are the things you do when you really resonate with something. So they're very, very special. Same thing, if anyone wants to find out more about those trips or, be notified when they happen, more than welcome to send me an email. And also the Whit Sundays that we do in May is another beautiful trip, but generally no whales in May, but lots of other beautiful sea creatures. Yes, look at that. My heart just leaps every time I see them. Just so precious.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us about your experiences. And it's just so good to speak about other things and the traditional way that we're taught to go about things at school, and the way we're steered in our society, you know, it's like this narrow steering, and, you know, you've opened up. There's a whole universe. There's so much out there. And, you know, just loved hearing all about it, and also hearing how you've come through this, and now you're able to give service, and that's the giving Dharma, you know, it's the highest gift of all, to be able to give to people and to have an open heart and share that around. Yeah, and you have a very amazing open heart. I mean, I love it whenever I see you, because you give me the biggest hug, and you're always so positive and supportive, and so thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Very nice.
Rightio. I'll call it a night, but stay with us. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.